How to make spinach pasta for St. Patrick's Day or any day. Spinach pasta, 2 versions. One is rustic, easy, and perfect for freezing. I'm showing both spinach pasta as well as plain pasta, and I'm showing a 3rd version where you hand roll the pasta for fun shapes. First step, spinach. Take a large handful of baby spinach and remove as many of the stems as you can. Wilt or briefly blanch the spinach, then drain it well. Run it under a little cold water so it cools enough to handle. Once cool enough, place the spinach into a tea towel, cheesecloth, or paper towel and squeeze out as much of the moisture as possible. You may wish to reserve a little of that water for the pasta dough, but it usually isn't necessary as the spinach still retains a fair amount of moisture. Now prepare the pasta dough. For this recipe, you will need 1 cup of flour, semolina, durum wheat is recommended, 1 egg, a large one, half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of salt, and a good handful of the spinach that I was just talking about. If you like, you can add a little parsley or dill when blending the spinach, but it's optional. And for very smooth pasta, remove the stems and blend the spinach until it's almost liquid. In this example, I kept mine more roughly chopped for a slightly more rustic texture. To begin the dough, place the flour in a bowl and make a well in the center. Add 1 tablespoon of olive oil, add the egg, sprinkle the salt over top. Add the spinach over the egg. Whisk the egg and the spinach together first. Then slowly begin incorporating the flour. If you want the spinach smoother, you can blend it first using a hand. Oh, we didn't need that. Once the dough begins to come together, turn it out onto a counter or board. Include any remaining flour from the bowl and begin kneading the dough by hand until it forms a ball. Cover the dough with parchment paper, wax paper, or a beeswax wrap, and allow it to rest in the fridge so the flour can fully hydrate. That's normally around 20 minutes to 30 minutes. Next, I'm showing the same pasta dough without the spinach. The ingredients are the same. 1 cup of flour, semolina is what I recommend, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, 1 large egg, a half to 1 teaspoon of salt. Because I plan to freeze this dough, I add between 30 and 40 grams of water instead of the usual 45 to 65 grams. I find that pasta dough becomes slightly wetter after freezing and thawing, so a slightly drier dough works better for me when I'm freezing. Form the dough into a ball and wrap it. If the dough feels too dry and you plan on using it that day, add water a tablespoon at a time until it forms the ball and it is more malleable under your hand, so it forms and moves better. You may prefer a slightly softer dough. Again, add more flour add more water. If it's the first time that you're making this, in time you will find the texture that suits you. Semolina flour hydrates more slowly than regular flour, which is also why resting the dough is very important. I always recommend a minimum of 20 minutes rest in the fridge. Now, if you're going to be freezing your dough, label it if possible. I will use either wax paper or parchment paper, wrap it tightly, and then tape over it and put the date on it. This way I know when it was made and I can use it within 6 months of that date. Okay, now back to the spinach pasta. After resting the spinach dough for about 20 to 30 minutes, remove it from the fridge and place it on a clean counter. You can dust the surface slightly with flour if needed. Roll the dough as thinly as possible, ideally less than 1/4 inch thick and closer to 1/8 of an inch if you can. For everyday pasta, I prefer it even thinner, but this works well for a simple St. Patrick's Day novelty pasta. In this example, I'm using a mechanical pasta roller and cutting the pasta into linguine strips. Because I left some of the spinach stems in the dough, you may notice a little fiber as the pasta is cut. It's fine when it's cooked, though. I run the pasta through the roller until through settings 1 to 4, so 1 pass per each one. Setting 1 setting 2, setting 3, setting 4, and then I cut it into linguine. This process goes quick, and since I make pasta fairly regularly, this method works best for me. Now, cooking the pasta. For just the basic linguine, like what I have done, bring a pot of salted water to a boil. Add the pasta and stay nearby so the pot doesn't boil over. You can add a small drizzle of olive oil to help control the foam if needed. Fresh pasta cooks quickly, usually 5 to 7 minutes, depending on your preference. I tend to cook mine about 5 to 6 minutes. While the pasta cooks, prepare your serving bowl. Add 1 tablespoon of olive oil, grated Parmesan cheese to taste, salt, pepper, and a squeeze of lemon juice. Drain the pasta quickly, but keep a little of the cooking water with it. Don't let it sit. Transfer the hot pasta directly into the bowl. Toss the pasta with the olive oil, cheese, salt, and pepper immediately and with the lemon in there. Add a little more Parmesan to the top if you'd like and mix well. Ready to serve for St. Patrick's Day. Now, keep watching. If you want a small novelty version, roll the dough very thin and use small cookie cutters, hearts or clovers or other shapes if you wish and if you have them. You can add these shapes into regular pasta for a fun presentation, especially for children. If you don't have these shapes and you still want to add something to regular pasta, you can hand cut heart shapes if you'd like. Any extra dough that you may have can be frozen and used later. This is a fun idea for kids. I hope you enjoy it.